Okay. Well, first off, Tom, welcome to San Francisco. I think I've seen television 9 times here in San Francisco a decade ago, and
I don't think we played 9 times.
He did the Stone tour of 3 Stones and Gabriel.
What's the Stones?
Keystone Palo Alto, Keystone San Francisco, and Keystone Berkeley. And then I saw you open for Gabriel.
That's right. There were those Keystone clubs.
And then after that, of course, the Waldorf.
Do they exist, these places, anymore?
No, they've turned into like heavy metal clubs. They were bought out by the guy that did those Nady systems.
Oh, yeah.
John Nady or something. Yeah. So they're like heavy metal thrash clubs now. Oh, yeah. And now you're back. The new album. It's television, by television, and produced by television. Did you want to keep everything sort of incestuous within the group? Or did you want to establish like the group identity apart from everyone's solo pieces that you've done in the past decade? Or was it both?
It was neither, actually. It was just we didn't come up with a title for the record, so we just left the title off. And the production thing was just basically we put a mic in front of an amp and move it around till it sounds good, and that's about it. You know, there's no other hired hands on the record or anything, so basically me and Fred sort of produce it, though. I think it'd be fair to say.
Okay, and he's worked a lot with you on your own solo stuff and played with you, so there was that closeness. What was the studio like?
Actually, it wasn't much bigger than these 2 offices. In fact, probably wasn't even as wide, but it does happens to have like one room that's drum-wise is just, you can hardly walk in there when the guy's playing because it's brick walls and wood floors and just totally great sound for drums, you know. And a little homemade board, actually, more sophisticated than the one you got there, but not that far away from that. Not a computer board or anything. And simple little thing, simple place.
Now, in the earlier television stuff, a lot of the songs, such as Marquee Moon and Breaking in My Heart and songs like that, had a gestation period of years before they were actually committed to recording. Are some of the songs on this album also stretching that far back for you? Did you write in the studio?
No, these are all, I'd say, stuff that came up since '91. I would say a couple of them actually came out of jam sessions we had in the studio. Like Rocket was basically, me and Billy were in there late one night playing around with this beat, and we listened to the tape the next day and figured, I had some other ideas for it, so that became a song. And Rhyme was also a jam, which I sort of took a tape home and found the best bits from, and then we relearned them. And this tune also was about 12 minutes long, and we just cut the last 8 minutes off it, I guess.
Wow. Live, do these songs stretch out then?
Yeah, some of them, 1880's probably one that stretches out the most. Yeah, they're all a little bit longer, I'd say. Some cases much longer.
All right. Television has been covered by so many people, from Simple Minds to Bowie to Lloyd Cole to Aztec Hammer, the Bunnymen, Chris Connolly, Russ Tolman, True West, Steve Wynn. Any particular covers that you like that people have done of your material that you think stand out, that you enjoyed hearing it?
Well, some of those guys covered Verlaine songs as opposed to television songs, yeah. Although it's the same writer in that case anyway, but I like hearing cover versions just because you're so outside of it. When you hear it, you don't even know what it is for like 30 seconds. And then you go, oh, I see, this is sort of interesting. Actually, the Echo and the Bunnymen version of Friction was on an EP. It was done live in some club in Sweden. This was actually incredibly good. In fact, I was amazed at how good it was in terms of recreating something. In terms of messing around with something, the Susie and the Banshees version of Little Johnny Jewel was like pretty interesting.
Yeah,
they made a very military kind of thing out of it, but it's still real interesting to hear.
I barely recognized it the first time.
Yeah.
What were the first live shows like this year for you? Did you play around in New York first and then go do
No, we just got an opportunity to go to these like basically the three biggest festivals, summer festivals in Europe. So we just grabbed that because they were all in the same 3 days in 3 different countries. So that thing, it's just so easy to do. I mean, you walk out and it's daylight and there's a hill covered with people or something, and there's no sound check. You just plug in and play and leave, and it's really easy to do. I mean, everybody in the group's been playing so long. It's like the longer you play, the easier it is, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Now, the last 2 times I've seen you here in San Francisco, you've been acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
It must feel great to be with the band again, and
well, I miss this acoustic stuff, actually. Tell you the truth, I was thinking of doing, because we had last night off, I wanted to get an acoustic gig here, but I couldn't get it in time, because that has an intimacy thing to it that I really missed out of electric stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I mind electric stuff, but the acoustic thing is, because you can tell stories, and a band thing is a different thing, and so if you can't hear the singer that well, you can't follow it, and then everything gets all messed up. But if you're on your own, or you can do a lot more storytelling things and stuff like that.
That was one of the high points that I got from Russ Tolman when he saw your last acoustic show in Los Angeles was, man, the stories are great.
Yeah, it's fun to do.
I always wanted to ask you about this particular thing here.
What is that one?
The Blue Rose single.
Oh, you know what that is? That's a misprint.
Yeah.
I don't even have one of these, actually. You got yourself a... God, I've seen the 12-inch of this. I never saw the 7-inch of this.
Now, what came
that
first
Blue
in that
Rose,
particular
the
song?
porno vocal buried in the background, actually. There's God, I just want to look at this.
Sure.
So they printed it right on the
label.
on the label, but wrong on the sleeve. Well, that was just a thing. That again is an example of a jam thing that we had when we were doing that record, and I basically had asked the drummer to play this beat and asked the bass player to play something, and we just jammed it out and edited it down and put a few more guitars on it, and then I put a vocal on it, which sounded, when we went to actually do it, we made a mix with the vocal, and then I took the vocal off and pushed the guitars up. It sounded better. So when they wanted something for the single, I remember that was laying around.
Yeah, it's certainly a prized possession for me, so that's pretty cool. You've said in a number of interviews that your favorite television album was the Arrow bootleg. Are there any plans for recording television live for a new release coming out?
Right. Well, Arrow isn't a bootleg, or maybe it started as a bootleg, but it's now available, much to our dismay, actually on CD in Europe, because the guy we made a deal with this cassette-only company in like 1980, I think it was. And he proceeded 2 years ago to sell the rights to CD it all over Europe and Japan, and didn't pay us in time. And it actually sounds better on vinyl. If you ever find the vinyl of it, it sounds, because it's all compressed and smashed together. And on the CD, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't have that quality to it. What I like about that, it was just, it's a mono recording of a band in a small club that actually happened to sound good. Most small clubs, you throw a mic in the air, it just doesn't sound that good, but this one did. And the mix was, you could really hear everything. So it just represented the band at a certain time that, in a way that I thought was great, If we do something like that again, it probably won't be for a couple of years.
So there are long-term plans then, at least up in the air ones?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to keep going. I mean, these days the economics of it are outrageous. It's just so expensive to tour. Unless you're playing to 6,000 to 10,000 people a night, you got to be borrowing money all the time just to keep there,
That's got to be another added attraction of touring by yourself with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't make a hell of a lot of money doing that either. It's just that somehow, I mean, I like the independence of that myself. And the other thing about that is if you write a song that night, you can go and play it. If you do that with a band, then you go to a sound check and go, do you want to try something new? And somebody may go, oh, Christ, I don't know, I got a headache today, I don't want to learn a song. So, it's a different bag.
What covers are you doing live now in your set? Have you picked up new things, or are we going to hear, for instance, "Knocking on Heaven's Door"? Maybe.
No. But I think the only one we do sometimes now, we sometimes do "Psychotic Reaction."
Yeah.
And although at the moment the drummer doesn't want to do it, because I don't know why. It's so easy to play, but for some reason he wants to get a cue together or something. And the other one is a Chocolate Watch Band song, which was from Ride on Sunset Strip movie called "Don't Need Your Lovin' Anymore."
Yeah.
Which is basically a rip-off of an old Kinks tune called "Milk Cow Blues," I think.
I think "Milk Cow Blues" when I was growing up was one of the songs that everybody got a guitar from age 8 to like 14 was playing
Had to
and
play
jamming in their
it,
garage.
two chord tunes. Yeah.
In your own material, your solo material, there's lots and lots of layered guitars and little, two-note riffs that you add and things like that. How is that different for you in recording when you're playing up against someone like Richard Lloyd? How is it arranged different? What do you do with it?
Well, it's not that different because in some cases I'm showing Richard parts that I can't play while I sing. So, and on other occasions it's really different from song to song. Sometimes he won't have a part until he's got his guitar solo on tape, and we'll take a bit of that solo and use that. He'll learn what he played again, and he uses that as a part through the song. On another song, he might just be playing the chord bit, and yet on another song, he may have come up with a kind of counterpoint part to either my guitar part. And in certain places, he's doubling the bass. He's just listening to the bass and playing along with the bass. So the better ones are when he comes up with something that is this kind of counterpoint thing, where you have these kind of two-voiced guitars, neither of which that are just hitting chords.
You guys kind of dance around each other in a way.
Right. Some of that's, like I say, some of that I arrange, and some of it he comes up with. A lot of it's rehearsal as well. It's definitely a lot more rehearsal involved with the band because everybody wants to put something forth, and it takes sometimes a long time to come up with the right combinations of things. Whereas with a solo thing, you just hire a guitar player and go. You basically go to the studio and go, "Here's the song." You run it down once, and then you ask him for a part if he hasn't got one after 10 minutes, and then you record it. So.
Now, I'd like to ask you a bit about your writings in the poetry vein and storytelling vein. On Words from the Front, there's a little bit on the sleeve, a little story about darkness.
That's in cover. It's in the cover record, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it alludes there to an upcoming book of stories. Has that ever come out? Will it? And what about your own poetry?
Yeah. Well, at the time, it's funny, that record came out about a month later. Somebody from Doubleday called me up and asked if I wanted to do this, and I said, yeah, I've just got to put these together. And then I went to live in England and figured I'd have a lot of time there to write. But I didn't, actually, because I started working over there. So I never got this thing quite finished. I don't know if I ever will. Yeah, that's sort of the state of that.
Now, when you first came to New York, according to Jim Carroll, you were first a poet and then got involved with bands.
Well, actually, yeah, when I went there, it was really early on. It was like 68, I guess, and I played with a few guys. It was all like Allman Brothers type stuff, which I didn't even like in 68, and so I had a guitar all the time, but I was much more concentrated on writing. It's true, for years, maybe 5 or 6 years. And then I remember going out to see some bands in around 72. I think it was like the New York Dolls and a couple other bands, which I didn't care for at all. And I thought, well, maybe I should put together a band because I could use some of this kind of stuff I was writing along with music and the whole thing. And that's how that eventually became television, I guess you could say, that kind of thing.